which bears his name upon it as well as mine.
Und ich bin nun mit meiner Regierung 2 volle Tage da gesessen, habe gewartet. Zeit!
I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin. What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin. Upon this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization. Upon it depends our own British life and the long continuity of our institutions and our empire. The whole fury and might of the enemy must very soon be turned on us. Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit uplands.
Late June 1940, and the entire west coast of Europe, from the Bay of Biscay to the North Cape, is in the hands of Adolf Hitler. The British Expeditionary Force has been evacuated from Dunkirk. France has suffered the humiliation of the armistice. But the British people are undismayed. Uncertainty and division have given way to purpose and unity. Few understand just how decisively the French army has been defeated, and perhaps mercifully, even fewer appreciate just how much equipment the British Expeditionary Force has left behind in France. The overriding feeling is one of confidence, almost of euphoria. July the 19th. Hitler, in a speech to the Reichstag, appeals to the British people to come to terms. Churchill's response is uncompromising. I do not propose to say anything in reply to Herr Hitler's speech, not being on speaking terms with him. A German attempt to invade Britain now appears a certainty. Already long-range guns are shelling the southeast coast of England.
At the moment we can see two bright flashes, three flashes from the other side of the channel, and three great puffs of smoke, another fourth. And any moment now the shells will be arriving over this side. And there's the explosion. And the second. Just a very short way in front of us in the sea here. Tremendous column of water goes up. There's a third bomb just come down now. And there's one more to come, and there it is. All those fall completely wide of the convoy as they walk.
The shelling of Channel convoys is only the first phase of Hitler's strategy. If the invasion of Britain is to have any hope of success, the Royal Air Force must first be destroyed. The provocation that will draw the RAF into costly duels with the Luftwaffe is to be a series of bombing raids on Channel convoys. If British fighters scramble to meet the attacking bomber fleets, they will lose precious aircraft to the German fighter escorts. If they fail to rise to the bait, Britain will lose equally valuable ships. July the 10th is the start of the Battle of Britain.
Well, now the Germans are dive bombing a convoy out into the sea. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 German dive bombers, Junkers 87s. There's one going down on his target now. Bomb. No, missed the ships. He hasn't hit a single ship. There are about 10 ships in the convoy, but he hasn't hit a single one. And there you can hear anti-aircraft going at them now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are about 10 German machines dive bombing the British convoy, which is just out to sea in the channel. I can't see anything. No, we thought he got a German one had been got then, but now the British fighters are coming up. Here they come in absolute steep dive, and you can see their bombs actually leave the machines and come into the water. You can hear our own guns going like anything now. I'm looking round now, I can hear machine gun fire, but I can't see our Spitfires. There must be somewhere there. Oh, here's one coming down now. There's one coming down in flames. Somebody's hit a German, and he's coming down with a long streak. He's coming down completely out of control, a long streak of smoke. Our man's bailed out by parachute. The pilot's bailed out by parachute. He's a Junkers 87, and he's going slap into the sea, and there he goes. Smash! Terrific crumble of water, and there was a Junkers 87. There was only one man got out by parachute, so presumably there was only a crew of one in it.
During the battle for France, when Air Chief Marshal Dowding was conserving his men and machines for the crisis he knew would come, Fighter Command was the least popular of all the services. Memories of German aircraft attacking the beaches at Dunkirk almost unopposed were the cause of endless brawls between soldiers and airmen. Now all that has changed. No one is in any doubt that Fighter Command is all that stands between Britain and invasion.
How'd you get up, sir? Oh, I had a wonderful sleep, eh?
Are you all right? Did you get any of the batter?
Yes, I got a medicine at 109 in the Dornier.
The romantic image of the fighter pilot has little basis in reality. By the end of July, the RAF has lost 118 aircraft. Now only 600 Spitfires and Hurricanes are pitted against a German force of 700 fighters, 1,000 twin-engine bombers, and 700 dive and fighter bombers. The odds are heavily in Hitler's favor. The losses of the Luftwaffe have been almost double those of the RAF, but for years it has been training almost 4 times as many pilots. In the air war, time too is on Germany's side. While the Battle of Britain hangs in the balance, the war at sea moves steadily in Germany's favor. As the Navy waits for the invasion that must surely come, both North and South Atlantic are at the mercy of German raiders. Many merchant ships still sail alone. Such convoys as do exist have only the weakest of escorts. While Germany is sparing in her use of surface warships, fast cargo liners with disguised armament can approach a convoy or a lone merchantman unrecognized until it is too late. In the July of 1940, raiders sink 67 ships. And this at a time when Britain's need for war materials has never been greater. In the summer of 1940, it is clear to everyone that the survival of Britain depends on her air defenses. But this war is as much a war of machines as of pilots and gunners. With shipping being lost at an ever-increasing rate, supplies of raw materials are at a premium. Nothing must be wasted.
This is how the housewife is helping the Royal Air Force. Minister of Aircraft Production, Lord Beaverbrook, appealed for aluminium pots and pans, new and old, every description.
Much of the mountain of scrap collected in government campaigns will never find its way into a fighter plane. But at least people feel that they are making a personal contribution to their own survival. In these days of mounting anxiety, the question asked by almost everyone is, what can I do?
Since the war began, the government have received countless inquiries from all over the kingdom, from men of all ages, who are, for one reason or another, not at present engaged in military service, and who wish to do something for the defense of their country. Well, now is your opportunity.
Colonel Montmorency, who was in Calcutta in '92, emerged from his retirement for the war. He wasn't very pleased with all he heard and all he saw, but whatever he felt, he tightened his belt and organized a corps. Poor Colonel Montmorency thought, considering all the wars he fought, the Home Guard...
By the middle of June 1940, 1.5 million men have joined the local defense volunteers. Between them, they have only 70,000 rifles.
Could you please oblige us with the Bren gun? Or failing that, a hand grenade will do. We've got some ammunition in a rather damp condition, and Major House has an arc with us that was used at Waterloo.
German radio propaganda is quick to single out the local defense volunteers for special attention. It is reviled as a band of murderers and declared illegal. Far from feeling intimidated, its members are enormously flattered.
Could you please oblige us with the Bren gun? We're getting awfully tired of drawing lots. Today we had a shipment of some curious equipment, and just for a prank they sent us a tank that ties itself enough.
For weeks the weather has been ideal. People gather mesmerized, watching the aerial duels, cheering every time a German plane is hit. The most abiding impression on the watchers is the unreality of it all.
There are 1, 2, 3, oh, whoops, the dogs like going up there. There are 4, 5, 6 machines wheeling and turning around. Now there's something coming right down on the tail of another. There, they're being chased home, and how they're being chased home. There are 3 Spitfires chasing 3 Messerschmitts now. Oh boy, look at them going. And there's a Spitfire just behind the first 2. He'll get them. Oh boy, I've never seen anything so good as this. The RAF fighters have really got these boys.
Somehow, in such a blue and cloudless sky, it is impossible to believe that young men are going to their deaths. But for hundreds of young flyers, scrambling time after time, day after day, to the point of exhaustion and beyond, there is always the nagging fear. Perhaps today it will be my turn.
The first shell tore through the hood over my crop and sent splinters into my left eye. I couldn't see through that eye for blood. The second cannon shell struck my spare petrol tank and set it on fire. The third shell crashed into the cockpit and tore off my right trouser leg. I suppose I was about 12 to 15,000 feet when I bailed out. Then an aircraft, a Messerschmitt I afterwards heard, came tearing past me. I decided to pretend that I was dead and hung limply by the parachute strap. The Messerschmitt came back once, but I didn't get the bullets I was half expecting. I don't know if he fired at me. The main thing is that I wasn't hit.
In the Battle of Britain, ideas of chivalry have long been discarded. Both sides accept that a pilot who is bailed out or a rescue craft picking up a ditched survivor are legitimate targets. For almost 5 weeks, Hitler's strategy has been to wear out the defense. On August the 13th, he orders the final great assault. Eagle Day is to be the beginning of an all-out offensive against the Royal Air Force. It is to be driven from the south of England within 4 days and crushed within 4 weeks. Each day, the Luftwaffe will fly over 1,500 missions. Their targets are ports, factories, radar stations, and above all, airfields. Now, the greatest fear of those commanding the British defence is that the vulnerable network of sector stations, radar stations, and communications links will be smashed beyond repair. As the massive air fleets of the Luftwaffe sweep over the airfields of southern England, they leave behind them a trail of death and destruction. For the men and women of the Royal Air Force, many of whom have never experienced an air raid before, these are the most difficult days they have yet had to face.
We laughed and chatted on our way to the trenches as this was no unusual occurrence. And then things happened quickly. Bombs crashed everywhere. Anti-aircraft and machine guns barked and sputtered while plane after plane dove down with a head-splitting, nerve-shattering roar. I'd no idea that so much could happen so quickly. And remember thinking, well, I suppose one feels like this in a bad earthquake.
By the end of Eagle Day, 34 German aircraft have been shot down for the loss of 13 RAF fighters. 47 British planes have been destroyed on the ground, but of these, only one is a fighter. Air Chief Marshal Dowding, head of Fighter Command, calls it a miracle. The following days see a succession of massive raids on airfields from Scotland to southern England. But once again, the Luftwaffe suffers heavy losses. On the 15th of August alone, 71 German aircraft are destroyed for only 29 RAF fighters. But the RAF cannot afford losses, even on this scale. Already 180 fighters have been lost this month. German superiority in numbers means that Fighter Command will be crippled long before the Luftwaffe. It seems hardly possible that Hitler can do more to the beleaguered island of Britain than he is doing already. Yet the noose is to be pulled still tighter. On August the 17th, Hitler declares a total naval blockade of the British Isles. Even neutral ships are to be sunk on sight. Not a drop of oil or a grain of wheat is to reach the British people.
Klar bei Torpedos! Rohr 1 und 2 ist klar! Los!
In August alone, 56 ships are sunk by U-boats. At any time of the day or night, calm may in a single instant turn to terror and confusion. Throughout the late summer, the U-boats strike almost at will. 2/3 of the shipping lost to U-boats are sunk by raiders hunting alone. The days of the wolf pack are still in the future. But so are effective anti-submarine tactics. The 30 or so U-boats available to Admiral Dönitz are having an impact out of all proportion to their numbers. To U-boat crews, the period between July and October becomes known as the happy time. The confidence of the German armed forces has never been higher. By now, Italy too is at war. And while Germany besieges Britain by sea and air, the Italian armies are victorious on land. On July the 4th, Italian units advance from Abyssinia into the Sudan. On the 15th, into Kenya. By mid-August, British Somaliland has fallen. And now over 5,000 British soldiers and civilians must be evacuated by sea. The Italians have suffered 2,000 casualties for British losses of only 260, but British prestige abroad is badly damaged. On the 17th of August, 3 battleships of the Royal Navy's Mediterranean Fleet bombard Italian positions on the North African coast. The Navy's action does little to persuade world opinion that the British Empire is not on the verge of collapse. In America, it is widely believed that Britain's total defeat is only a matter of time. By the beginning of September, Hitler's objective of crippling Britain's fighter defenses is close to being realized. Airfields at Biggin Hill, Manston and West Malling have all been severely damaged. South of the Thames, only 2 sector stations are still in operation. The situation for Fighter Command is critical. By now, the problem is not a lack of aircraft. For the first time, more are being produced than are being lost. Rather, it is a desperate shortage of trained men that threatens the survival of the Royal Air Force.
We none of us had any real knowledge of how desperate things were in fact, but we realized, without needing facts, that this would be the end if it couldn't be withstood. The boys' abounding high spirits were rather stilled by September. They were strained and silent, but never for one instant did they fail to leap for their aircraft like scalded cats the moment the scramble was given. But when a wing went up, instead of the normal 36 aircraft taking the air, we'd be lucky if we could scrape up 10.
There were very few spare pilots around, and sleep became quite a problem at night. Big in particular, where they had been fighting very hard. The billet that we were placed in was only 50 yards away from a heavy ack-ack battery, which practically blew us out of bed every night. I tried taking aspirins and going down air raid shelters for the night, but the aspirins didn't work. The shelter, you could hear everything just as much. After about 4 days of this, I just joined the other chaps in the bar at night, had a few pints of beer, after which I was able to sleep contentedly.
For the young airmen of Fighter Command, these are the days of greatest heartbreak. Every morning there are more empty seats in the mess. Already more than a quarter of pilots and squadron commanders have been killed or wounded. The German air fleets are defended by heavier fighter escorts than ever before, and as each day passes, there are fewer and fewer defenders left to meet them. Fighter Command does have one priceless advantage over the Luftwaffe. It has radar. Hermann Goering, the German air chief, has failed completely to grasp the importance of radar in Britain's network of defences. He calls off further attacks on radar stations, believing them to be wasteful. It is his first major mistake. In the last 20 days of August alone, 462 German aircraft have been destroyed. Over 1,000 crewmen have been killed or captured. Even so, the outcome of the Battle of Britain still hangs on a thread. Everyone knows that within a terrifyingly short space of time, the issue will be decided one way or the other. Until now, British casualties have been, for the most part, service personnel, merchant seamen, and the inhabitants of British port cities. But the battle is to enter a new phase. All-out attacks on Britain's aircraft factories will place thousands of civilian workers squarely in the front line. In a single raid on the Vickers factory at Brooklands, 88 people are killed and 600 injured. The bombing of the Vauxhall works at Luton kills 53. In 4 consecutive night raids on Liverpool, the Luftwaffe sends 160 aircraft at a time. Now the inhabitants of the major cities must learn to live as the citizens of coastal towns have lived for almost 2 months.
Stations, Brown.
The Special Order File at 28 stations, reporting, sir. Message from the fire in Burdett Road. It is a building of 5 floors, about 150 by 100 feet, used as a general warehouse, well alight.
See this? Order 36 is ladders to commercial.
GP1562, EP781, 10 aircraft.
While for tens of thousands of British civilians, the air raid shelter increasingly becomes part of daily routine, Germany and the territories she has conquered do not escape unscathed. For months, British night bombing raids have steadily increased in frequency. The targets are munitions factories, U-boat yards, and the channel ports of France, from which Germany will attempt the invasion of Britain. Bomber commanders always believed that strategic bombing is a powerful weapon, yet it is ill-equipped for the night raids it is now launching on heavily defended German positions. The Whitleys, Hamdens and Wellingtons, which speed nightly across the Channel, are bitterly cold to fly in. What is worse, they have no sophisticated navigation equipment, and their crews have never been trained to fly in a blackout. In the 3 months of the Battle of Britain, 208 British bombers are destroyed. More crewmen die on bombing raids than Fighter Command loses in its life or death struggle with the Luftwaffe. As the Battle of Britain reaches its climax, the German threat to Atlantic supply lines sharpens still further. Until now, U-boats have had to rely more on luck than on up-to-date intelligence to pinpoint a convoy in the vast expanse of the North Atlantic. But in August 1940, the situation for shipping takes a dramatic turn for the worse. Germany has produced a new long-range 4-engined aircraft. Not only can it radio reconnaissance information to surfaced U-boats, it can bomb convoys far beyond the range of British fighter cover. Four 1,200 horsepower engines give it a top speed of over 220 miles per hour. It has a range of over 2,000 miles with a bomb load of 4,000 pounds. The Royal Navy give the Condor the title Scourge of the Atlantic. If the Luftwaffe had possessed sufficient numbers by 1940, it would quickly have become the Scourge of Britain. As British shipping fights what seems to everyone to be a losing war in the Atlantic, and the Battle of Britain continues to hang in the balance, few at home pay much attention to events in the far-off Mediterranean. Yet there at least, the Royal Navy can claim some measure of real success. All through the summer of 1940, British and Italian navies struggle to dominate the sea lanes of the Mediterranean. Mussolini has named it Mare Nostrum, our sea. The Royal Navy is intent on proving him wrong. British access to the Suez Canal and the imperial possessions of India and the Far East must be safeguarded at all costs.
Down 800!
On July the 9th, British warships en route from Malta to Alexandria clash with an Italian naval force. For the Royal Navy, the result is a major success. The Italian battleship Giulio Cesare and a cruiser are severely damaged. On July the 19th, near Crete, the Royal Navy cruiser Sydney and her destroyer escort sink an Italian cruiser. The Italian Navy has one major advantage over the British. Air attacks on Royal Navy ships can be mounted almost at will from ships at sea and bases on the Italian mainland. For all that, in a period of 4 days, the Royal Navy battleship Warspite is attacked 34 times by Italian aircraft, but survives virtually unscathed. In spite of everything the Italian Navy can do, the Mediterranean lifeline remains intact. For the sailors of the Mediterranean fleet, far from home, patrolling week after week, it is a time of the greatest anxiety. No one can be certain that a few weeks from now there will be a Britain left to return to. With each day that passes, the spectre of invasion draws closer. By September the 3rd, Hitler is so confident of victory in the skies over Britain that he issues operational orders for the long-awaited invasion. The following day, he makes his final threat to the British people. In England, he says, they keep asking why does he not come? Calm down. He is coming. He is coming. The assault is to be made by a force of 11 divisions, spearheaded by parachutists. 4 divisions of the 16th Army are to land at Folkestone. 2 divisions will land near Eastbourne, and 3 more will establish a beachhead at Brighton. "50,000 men will land in the first 2 hours. By the end of the first day, 125,000 will be ashore on a 60-mile strip between Brighton and Folkestone. Britain, after its losses at Dunkirk, has only 4 fully equipped divisions. 8 more divisions are available but have no heavy weapons. In the whole country, there are only 500 anti-tank guns. By September the 7th, German ships and invasion barges are converging on the Channel ports of France. The invasion is to take place in just 8 days from now. To the British people, Churchill embodies the spirit of calm determination. Yet later he will admit that there were days that summer when he awoke with dread in his heart. German preparations have been meticulous. Detailed plans have already been drawn up for governing a conquered Britain. Citizens to be arrested and sent to concentration camps have been listed by name. Signs to be posted on requisitioned property have already been prepared. "300,000 people have left the coastal towns of southeast England. Those who remain have been given strict instructions by the government. If the invasion comes, stay in your homes. If you run away, you will be machine gunned from the air." As anxiety mounts and the certainty of invasion grows, no one in Britain can know that the seeds of German failure have already been sown.
Planes coming in. Control room speaking.
Customers and staff will now take cover in the basement. Please do not run, but keep moving.
On August the 24th, for the first time, bombs are dropped on central London. Up to now, raids on the capital had been expressly forbidden by Hitler. He is reserving attacks on London for the final stages of his campaign. In fact, the bombing is a mistake. A small number of aircraft, harassed by fighters, have lost their way. But the British response is immediate. A retaliatory raid is ordered on Berlin. The bombing of Berlin has the desired effect. Hitler is enraged.
Angriff! Wir werden ihre Städte ausradieren! Wir werden diesen nachgeratenen panzerfähigen Soldaten verhelfen!
The Führer accuses the British of being night gangsters. For this crime, he rages, I will extract 1,000-fold revenge. Hitler will keep his promise. No one in Britain expects Saturday, the 7th of September, to be different from any other day. But the target of the German bombers is not the airfields of the RAF or the aircraft factories. It is the city of London itself. At 4 p.m., observers report sighting one of the largest German air fleets yet to cross the Channel. There are almost 1,000 aircraft. A third of them are bombers. On the ground, there is astonishment. The German formation is 1.5 miles high and covers 800 square miles of sky. Within 17 minutes, 11 squadrons of fighters have been scrambled to meet the raiders. The defenders can do little against such a massive force. They are facing almost twice as many German fighters as the Royal Air Force has in all its frontline squadrons put together. By nightfall, the London sky is lit with near midday brilliance. The East End and Docklands are a blazing inferno. From 8 p.m. until 4:30 in the morning, a second wave of over 300 bombers, guided by the flames, rain incendiaries and high explosives on 9 miles of Thames waterfront. Thousands of firemen, mostly part-time auxiliaries, struggle heroically against hopeless odds.
I can remember us standing there with the sweat pouring off us, and the heat was terrific. Thousands of gallons of crude oil were flying all over the show of light. The flames were going along in the road with the oil. Plenty of bombs were coming down all the time, about one a minute, near enough to be uncomfortable, and you couldn't throw yourself down. You got hold of the hose about 50 times tighter when the bombs came down.
I went over to the shelter and put my head in. I suppose there were about 40 people there. I said, anybody hurt? Nobody answered. So I went up to one woman and tapped her and said, is there anybody hurt here? And she said, over there's a mother and a 2-day-old baby. They've just been dug out, but I don't know about the others. So I went over to the mother. She didn't speak. And I wrapped her in a blanket and put her on the stretcher. And I said, is there a warden here? And somebody said, no, he was killed half an hour ago. And after that, I just filled the ambulance with as many people as I could cram in. Nobody still spoke. It was all the most deathless silence.
430 people have been killed and 1,600 badly wounded. Thousands more are homeless. It is the start of a nightmare that will continue for 76 nights on end. It is the beginning of the Blitz.